Hi, good evening, and welcome to another round of Enterprise Wednesday. And thank you for coming on board at 6 p.m. Malaysian time. And once again, we have a wonderful chat session organized for you. And today we have a wonderful guest who is Mr. Manirajah Kulanthavelu, who is the CEO and founder of Retailetics Sdn Bhd. Thank you, Raj, who's also a friend to APU. We've been in dialogues over the last couple of years.
Yes.
With me this evening is also the beautiful Miss Visal from our Entrepreneurship Club. Welcome on board, Visal. And I will co-host and moderate this fire chat this evening together with Visal. Let me start with a bit of introduction to Mr. Manirajah. He has been a collaborator with APU. He has been a person who's fond to hire our interns. And when he first came to APU to meet us and myself personally, he had a lot of ideas, and I was taken up by that one idea that has led to his company now, which is Retailetics. And it is wonderful to see someone be successful when he takes his ideation to an actual practical business application. You know, there is, as Raj, I will call him Raj because he's a friend, as Raj would agree, in today's retail world, there is a widespread disruption due to the pandemic, which has caused many inefficiencies in the supply chain itself for the retail industry, which has actually led to some of the retailers to realize it is time for a change, a paradigm change with the infusion of technology to meet customer demand. And this is happening as we speak now, which I would define as the testing times. So undoubtedly, the future of for and highly efficient supply chain is to be agile, is where you want to measure, able to measure, yeah. So that whatever assets that you own within the supply chain is intact and there is zero disruptions. So the other key element, just to add on for today's quick start to the fire chat, is that customer expectations and the buying behavior are ever evolving. You can have character, but behavior is a totally new thing, which can change at any time. And retailers must adopt a very proactive approach to truly personalize the entire shopping experience. And with that, I want to kickstart today's fire chat because the title for today is How to Play the Game in the Regulated and Less Regulated Industry. So Raj, welcome on board and thank you for spending this evening with us. And kudos to you for setting up Retailetics and to where you have taken it. I'm sure those who Google your Retailetics company will know that there's some good write-ups up there on the internet on what you have done. Just as a kickstart, maybe you can tell us a bit about your background and where you were before and how you reached to the stage of the birth of Retailetics.
Thank you, Prof. Long time no chat, long time no see. Good to meet you here. Thank you to APU to allow me to share and join this forum. Well, I like to share my experience and especially to the youngsters because there's a lot of things to learn compared to what you see from other people, but doing it yourself and everything. Well, if you're talking about how I started working back in 1983 in a bank. And then was not so exciting, wanted some action, went into pharmaceutical, doing sales. And I think that was very, very important element for me because selling is an everyday chore. All of us are selling. When you talk to your employee, you're selling something to employers. When you talk to your student, you're selling the syllabus and whatnot. So selling is very, very important. And what I did was, from there I moved from the bank, I moved to pharma sales, and again there, not challenging enough. And then I moved to telecommunication, and working in telecommunication industry for about nearly 15 years, and that's where I picked up quite a bit on technology. What is saying? I'm not an engineer. I'm a marketing person. I have an MBA from University of Hull. That again I did while working, so that also helped me a lot in understanding, how to put paper to experience, or paper to work. When I say paper to work, means understanding what is organization structure, why organization think like that, and that. The whole list goes on. But that working experience allowed me to understand, okay, this is how a structure should be, this is what an HR department should do, okay, this is what operation should do. And from the telco, uh, understanding that, I my first startup was born in 2007. Again, that time I was working for a multinational company, and I was covering the region. So again, that gave me exposure to, what's the region, traveling, meeting a lot of people. And I had my first startup, which was an e-wallet. At that time we called prepaid. It was an e-wallet. I got it approved by Bank Negara, one of the three at that time in 2006, 2007. I think I was very early on that, what do you call that, digital payment. But nevertheless, uh, I already started. It was already born, so I had to carry the baby, and there was a lot of challenges, of course, because adoption was very low. E-commerce was just at that infant, so digital payment, right? It's all made via online payment. But then again, that whole process then told me that, hey, digital payment has not grown as big, but retail payment, that means at the store payment, is still very, very large, at least 98% of all transactions. So then quickly got the decision of, okay, let's go for a prepaid card. Now then that relates very well to the regulated, unregulated. The fintech industry is very regulated. So when you want to do anything, you have to get approval from the regulator. In this case, will be Bank Negara, whether it's fintech, insure tech or financial technology, you have to go to central bank to get approval. So that is where a regulated industry becomes very tight. Whatever you do, you need to get them to approve it. And I went on through all the challenges, and finally, when that e-wallet or the digital payment became big globally, then everybody wanted to jump into the bandwagon. And then I got offer left, right, center who wanted to buy my company, and then I said, okay, time to offload. So I exited that business, sold it off to Green Packet, and now it's called Kipple Pay, if you all are familiar with Kipple Pay. So the initial start was called Webcash. That's what my brand was. So that was my first startup. It gave me a lot of understanding, how to manage cash flow, da da da. At the same time, that was a B2C market, right? What I mean by B2C means your consumer is your market. No doubt you have to sign up merchants to accept your payment, but you depend on the consumer to do that transaction, so that you will earn your, they got MDR, merchant discount rate. You earn the transaction fee. So that became another challenge. Sorry, another challenge for me to in terms of funding, because once you do a B2C, then it's deep pocket, because you need to entice people to use your services. And so, but anyway, when after exiting it, and Retailetics was born because of my personal problem and what I see in the hypermarkets, and that's when during the this was born in 2018, right after me offloading Webcash, my e-wallet. And then I thought, no, I want to go into the IoT space. I wanted to go into the IR 4.0 kind of thing, but in a B2B environment, B2B, business to business, because then it's much easier to sell, right? You sell to one big corporate, you get a big contract, and then you can sustain that contract. And but the whole idea came out from the problem I see: long queues, I can't find my product. They move the shelves from here to there, product here to there. Then that's when the whole thing came out, is there is a problem here, because the retailers have not adopted the technology, or there is no proper technology that they can adopt. So that's when I said, no, there must be a solution. And that's when I came out with the idea that, what if I can digitize the entire experience of the shopper, at the same time enable the retailers to know what the shopper is doing in the store. So when they take our smart card, and the shopper logs in, they can then start their shopping journey, and we know in a real-time basis what they're buying. So when they scan a pasta, we know they're scanning a pasta. Offers can be made right on the spot based on the product they scan. So these are the technology that we use. So basically, what I've done is, or rather with my partner, we have basically allowed the retailer to have a similar capability of an e-commerce retailer. If you go to Lazada now, Lazada knows that Manirajah is inside is viewing something using the algorithm. Of course, they know what I clicked, what I didn't buy, what I bought, and they can follow my entire journey. But the retailers can't. But using our smart card now, the retailers can know that exactly what Manirajah picked, what Manirajah put in the cart, what he didn't put in the cart, all those things. So that is how the whole idea came, that there must be a solution. There will be should be a solution. So how do we combine this and make it into a product? So from ideation to prototyping, that's a process that had to go through. So that's how Retailetics was born. And the name Retailetics, basically whatever data that we collect from the shopper experience, shopper transactions and shopping experience, they can pay on the card. Basically, they don't have to queue. So in this pandemic, I think that became a good solution, because people don't have to queue, don't have to wait too long, don't have to stand behind another person. You can just come, buy, check out, and go. Of course, we are still at a very pilot stage, at a beta stage. We haven't gone commercial yet. Hopefully next year, early next year, we should be able to start off some pilot and allow people to experience it. Basically, that's a bit of a story and history how I started into the entrepreneurship world.
I think Vishal, are you muted?
Yeah. Can't hear Vishal.
Okay, go to the cam and mic, and then you can sort of do the changes.
Settings, maybe? Is your PC mic open, on? That's another issue of technology. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah, you know what happened that day? I was connected to the projector, and then I could not. I did not know. I forgot to switch it over. I was wondering why am I speaking and no one is hearing me, but I can hear everyone fine. So it was actually connected to the projector. That's why. Are you okay now, Vishal?
You want to go out and come in? Exit and come in.
I think it's something to do with your setting. Right. While Vishal takes her time to do the amendments, maybe Raj, we can continue. I will just cover the next part, which we want to talk about challenges that you faced in developing your business idea. If you have, maybe if I could give you one challenge or you can share with us one challenge which was the hardest one, and how you dealt with it in developing your startup.
Well, the biggest challenge definitely is funding. Okay, first is the capital for you to start with. I started even Retailetics. We started with our own capital. Of course, now we got an angel investor, and now we have also started on an investment round. But the initial part, the biggest challenge, the ideation is one, but you get an idea, but for you to create a prototype out of that, you need to spend money, because you need to hire somebody. Either you outsource it or you hire full-time staff, which in my case we outsource first, and from there we then had to then get the necessary technology. What technology we're going to use, what coding language, those kind of stuff. So but all that require money, because you need to pay them, and they will tell you, oh, this is my code, this is my price, and I won't start without a initial payment, right? So that is the biggest challenge. So if you have your own funds, then you can start off immediately. But of course, there are people who can have funders, either family and friends, or big organization who likes their idea and they can fund it. Then those are, yeah, Vizal.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we can. I was
So
just shooting a fire question to Raj while waiting for you. It's
Thank you.
basically
Apologies.
yeah, no problem, Lisa. I was just asking Raj on the challenges that he had experienced while building his idea, and he was halfway talking about it. Uh, yeah, go ahead, Raj.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So that if you say one biggest challenge is always that, because you need to pay the bills, right? So funding is, and money, I would put it, money is the biggest thing that you need to do. So that will definitely make or break you. If you use too little money to develop what you're doing, then you won't get the intended result. If you use too much, it could be a waste. Okay, so that balance of how and what you need to use, and in what area that you need to use, is very important. So that I think is not only having it, but the challenge is also making sure you use it wisely. So that was the biggest challenge. And of course, what do you call that? For example, Retailetics is an applied technology company. So to apply whatever necessary technology, and make sure that it all works harmoniously, then that's also another challenge. So in a nutshell, one word, the challenge is to remain and make sure you continue to push. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'll take the.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
go ahead
Lisa.
with this
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
Since my mic is working now. So my second question would be, as a digital entrepreneur, what kind of strategies did you take towards achieving your goals, especially in the retail space? I know it is a bit of a competitive space, so perhaps you can share some of those strategies for
Yeah.
us and for our
Yes.
audience to get a better idea of it.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. How would I answer this question? Basically, the strategy was to create an ecosystem. Okay, that's the idea. When you have an ecosystem, then you can add on anything else into that system. So so a platform, basically. So what we did is to create that digital capability or digital ability for that retail environment. In this thing, we are targeting the grocery market for now. Okay, we are not into the departmental store and whatnot. We're into the grocery market. It's a card, smart card. We get a card from the supplier. We what do you call it? Modify it. We retrofit it with our technology, and then we push it into the retailers. So basically, it's a subscription model. We push it to the retailer. So when we give that our service to a retailer, it's all completed, ready, and we don't use their card. So it's an addition to what they have. So the strategy is okay. Then the strategy is also, how do we price ourselves? Do we go and sell it to them? How do we commercialize that whole thing. So the strategy was, okay, we're going to go on a subscription model and a SaaS model. We make money from the surrounding services like advertising, data, those kind of areas. So that is a strategy that we want to offer the retailer, because retailers sometimes, most of the time, don't want to spend capital, especially on items that is not directly related to their business, right? Of course, a card is directly related to their business, but this technology, it costs a lot of money. So how do we sell it? So that those are the other things that I think it's very it's in fact a challenge, and sometimes you just can't what do you call it, return on stone. Yes, now I'd say is as when SaaS model, but we also want to go regional immediately. Now that's another, I think, an important aspect that startups should consider. But depending how regulated your market is, in a financial technology environment is extremely regulated, so you need to get approval from in every country. Whereas Retailetics environment is very less regulated. It's still regulated because we still need to have a registered company. We need to submit our accounts, audited accounts, and we go to another country, the same thing has happened, right? But we can go regional very easily because a retail business is quite similar nearly everywhere, right? So regional expansion or regional market, I think is important strategy. Why? Because you need a large market, and also it makes it very interesting for investors, because you are not only playing in a particular country, but you're playing throughout the region. So those are strategy that startups, and again, you need to decide whether we are a B2B2C. Okay, what I mean by B2B2C is that we work with retailers, but at the same time we attract the consumers to use our services. That's when both win. The retailer win, we win, the shopper win, because they get the convenience and the experience. So we are in a B2B, B2B2C environment. So the strategy, you have to make sure that we make both sides happy, the B and the C happy in what the services we give. So those are the strategy. Like I said earlier, what we are trying to enable the retailer is to have visibility when the shopper is in the store. So as they push our cart along, we know exactly what they're buying, which part of the store they are standing now, because we have beacons and whatnot. So all those will just help to enable the retailer to see more things, and for us to offer the convenience to the shoppers. So I hope I answered the question.
That's really great. Yes, you did actually. And speaking about regulations, it's interesting to know that such business model is already regulated because you fall under the financial category. So perhaps you can tell us, how did you achieve compliance in terms of regulation for your company?
Retailetics actually is not in a regulated environment per se, but definitely we have to follow certain standards. Example, the shopper can pay on the cart by using PayWave. Now we can't do that because we don't have a approval. What do you call it? A payment system approval from central bank. So what we do, we work with people who already have that approval. In this case, we are already connected to Hong Leong Bank via they call it aggregator. So we work with them. So that part is taken care. So if any issue comes to payment, we know that we'll pass it on to the bank and say, hey, you have to handle this. So in the similar way, when we put in our sensors, then those all must be an approved equipment by MCMC, meaning by SIRIM and whatnot. So in that perspective, that definitely we have to follow. So, but the way we deliver our service is not regulated. That means you don't need a license to offer that to the customer, but definitely standard. So, to me, in regulation, that's why when the startups, when they start this, it's best for them to make sure they check that area and see how they are not then caught by surprise and say, oh, I need to apply for this license, then everything you have to go back to the drawing board.
That would be a major hiccup if you
Yes,
if you
yes,
went down
definitely.
that route.
Yeah, I think regulatory is always a big challenge.
Yes,
But I think in your case, lucky enough, it is not a major obstacle, but there
yes,
is some form of it,
yes,
and I think you have achieved the compliance as required. I think if you are in the areas of payment gateways and anything which is transactable or monetary, then
yes.
that is a tougher challenge because then you will
Yes.
have to deal with the federal bank
Yep.
in that case.
Yep. Even telecommunication, for that matter, you definitely need a license, and
Yeah.
they have given you different level of regulation. So those are the things that is good to understand. It's also good to understand whether there is act of parliament in those areas, like financial debt and insurance definitely is act of parliament. Telecommunication is also act of parliament. Quite a lot of areas that is good to see, because these all licenses, and the government charges you for licenses. So those are the areas that definitely need to be checked first before going in.
You brought up a couple of good pointers just now based on the experience of setting up Retailetics. And, in-store digital enablement is something that is transforming from what used to be as good to have to now currently as must have. So
Yes,
some of the stores are actually now pressured to go into this must have scenario. And I see a lot of what you have done, which can actually reflect onto the must have space. So,
yes,
if I look at the angle of from self checkouts, like whenever I travel, especially in the Western world, in the UK and all that, the self checkout is very prominent nowadays.
yep,
Or scan and go
yep,
applications,
yep,
which is also a very big thing, which is
yep,
being utilized by a lot of the not
yep,
only the mini stores but the larger stores as well.
yep,
And then also the personalized customer notification,
yep,
uh, and that basically technologically it enables to maximize sales and generate brand loyalty as such. So I just want to quote McKinsey. McKinsey has got this famous saying, winning decisions are increasingly driven by analytics more than instinct. So the old form is actually instinct, isn't it? But nowadays people use analytics to get that winning decision. And when you have that experience in the when you use the experience of the past, how you succeeded, that becomes actually in reality a poor predictor of the future. But analytics is now helping to inform and sort of unlock new pockets of growth. Uh, what type of new pockets of growth uh, which you want to introduce in the coming future, or already you're working on, that would take your business to the next frontier?
yep. Interesting question. Basically, well, e-commerce, everybody talks about e-commerce, and that's what a lot of questions we get with investors, especially. Oh, e-commerce. But I mean, my first answer will be is that I'm quite sure you all know Amazon is the largest e-commerce company in the world. And they have gone into retail. They bought Whole Foods, the retail chain, for $5 billion, and they have also gone into the smart card market. Okay, why? Simply because e-commerce, okay, can only sell so many things, but when it comes to grocery items and everything, people still want to go out there and pick it up themselves and whatnot. So 80% to 85% of grocery are still done physically. So Amazon has gone into that in a big way, but because the technology is so advanced that the retailers can't afford to pay, it's too expensive. So what Amazon has done, they've done it for themselves. So having said that, the retailers want to have it, but again, cost is a factor because the margins are too not very large, small margin. How do you balance that? So that is what we think that we can offer that. But at the same time, we know that 10 years or 20 years going forward, e-commerce might catch up to the level that we expect. So what we want to do is that we want to do the O2O model, meaning you come to the store, you use our card, you buy. Now we know that you have formed a pattern. Now from the pattern, can I now say that, hey, some of these items you buy on a monthly basis or weekly basis, now can I add that into your basket, and then I just deliver to you straight away? Because these are items that you buy. Example, rice. I know what brand you buy, whatnot, whatnot. Or you go to the store, our card, and you want to buy a particular jam, it's out of stock. Now, can I now tell in our app on the card, you can just click and say, hey, this one delivered to me because it's out of stock, example. So that is what we want to do going forward. Once we have established that ecosystem, that platform, and enable to add on other areas. Other example is, can I add on a recipe? Can I add on a function where, I don't know what to cook today. Sometimes it happens, my wife will ask me, hey, what for lunch? What for dinner? I ask her whatnot. So can we, while I'm shopping, can I just click and say, okay, suggest a lunch? And then in that process, I can ask you, what's the mood today? Emojis of telling happy mood, I'm stressed up or whatever. Okay, you click that, then I give you a recipe. And you know what? You are shopping, and that recipe says, you know what? You bought this tomato sauce last week, so you probably don't need that, but you need this items. So that's the beauty of technology, of course. But when you can marry that with a physical world, I think it's sexy. For me, it's sexy. So how do we manage, and the timing again, right? When do we push that in? So some retailers might say, no, I can do it myself. Yeah, of course you can do it yourself. So to ring fence, or rather to competition come and say, hey, you know what, I want to do that. So to ring fence that patent sometimes is very important. So those are the other areas that you might want to look at, and that's again, patent is very, it's good to protect or ring fence you. So to answer your question, Prof, it's good to plan the long term, how that is going to come in, and then put it in when you think you want to move that life cycle of your product to the next stage. You just add that, if possible, at the right time, not too much, because then it'll stretch yourself too much. So you have to blend it well. And I always like to use the example of, when you go to a buffet, you can't be putting everything on your plate. You have to take, piecemeal by piecemeal, and then enjoy the entire buffet. So startup is a journey. It's very interesting. It can make you feel really down for that moment. It can elate you. So it is a process.
Yeah, I like the way you use the term journey, because it's not something which is overnight. It's
Yes.
built on a process which you identify
Yeah.
based on the product that you want to sort of roll out, or put out to the market. And I think that it's interesting that you have actually shared your journey. Now, there's one point in the journey, and Vishal is going to ask you the sharp question, which has happened over the last 18 months. You want to ask him that question, Vishal?
Yes, absolutely. As a person that enjoys challenges and constantly on the hunt for challenges, I'm sure the past 18 months have been quite a serious different type of challenge, right? And it's a challenge that was imposed on all sorts of entrepreneurs and company owners and all sorts of people in lives, right? So how did the pandemic pose a challenge on your business as a startup? And perhaps from there you could give us some advice to all the other startups, how to overcome such challenges if such thing ever happens again.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a challenge. I think it was debilitating. Is it? What's the word? To one stage, I think it came to that. Everything just stopped. We were supposed to do a pilot in Thailand. A large retailer liked our technology, said, okay, guys, do a pilot. And we committed to that pilot, and we were supposed to deliver that item in the carts on somewhere in March, I think, March or April. And that time, the first MCO, I think, for 2021, was it 2021 MCO? Yeah, I think so, 2021 MCO. It came in. And the very last day, that means tomorrow, 12 o'clock midnight today, shut down everything. We just packed everything, put in a truck, and we send it out via ship. So okay, it reached there. Now they are pressing us, hey, you know what, the card, and it was not 100% complete. We can't go there. So it was a nightmare for us, because it's a first a pilot we are doing, first customer. We want to really make it work. Our guys can't go there. We were dependent on them. We have appointed a partner, a support partner there. We haven't really trained them fully. Oh, a lot of issues. Then in Malaysia, of course, everything shut down. Office can't open. So how we do the testing? We had some programmers in India. We have one or two local guys here. So how do we combine all this? So it was a challenge. I don't want to go through that again. But at the same time, it also helped us to learn how to manage in that kind of a very tight, very, very, very difficult situation. Rent continues. Everything else, cost goes on. Employee, we didn't actually slash our staff salary. We good thing we had only 2 in Malaysia, another 4 in India. So we of course we can't reduce their amount. They won't care. They said, hey, I'm still delivering, I'm still doing the coding and whatnot. So a lot of those challenges and then now MCO is over, we start everything fresh. Material cost has gone up. Now suppliers say, hey, you know what, this is what I quoted you before, but no, I cannot give you that price. Take it or leave it. Prices has gone up by 30%. Some of it are even 50%. So your entire model, pricing model and everything now goes haywire. So what do you do? We have committed certain prices to our retailer, because when we quote, we already quoted certain price. So what do we do? So that is another challenge, right? So now you need to deliver, but cost of material has gone up. Your cash flow now goes further haywire, because we have to pay that. So and I'm very sure it's across the board. It's across the board. Cost of material, it's gone up across the board. Everybody is feeling it. We think that suppliers are taking advantage to recover whatever they've lost during their MCO. They're trying to recover, because we are what do you call that? We have no option, right? We have to continue our business. So aluminium price, because our card, we use quite a bit of metal fabrication. Aluminium price gone up, stainless steel price gone up, sticker, transportation. So that is another challenge after MCO. So it's a double whammy. You get whacked here, then you come out, you think, okay, I can now continue with my work, and then boom, the price, the cost goes up. So that is something that I think I'm quite sure a lot of them will have the same experience.
I think that's interesting. I think you shared the sort of tsunami effect on product development because of the change in the economic landscape. And I think that was a hit, and you're facing that now. It's interesting. But I want to come back to the regulatory perspective, because you brought up a good point, which I did not know. And thanks for sharing. You're going international now. You have some region,
yes,
and then you also have partnerships in India. Am I correct? You mentioned that.
We are talking to people. So what we do there, we license it out, because we don't want to manage that. Yeah,
that's interesting, because from a licensing perspective, are you bound by any regulatory frameworks, especially working in India? And also in your ASEAN market penetration, are you also bound by any regulatory frameworks?
Yeah.
Maybe you can share.
Like Thailand, we were expected to have approval from their income tax department because we process the payment. So there are tax, SST, GST, tax, and everything. So the challenge was, one, we must make sure we calculate it correctly, because they also have certain items that no GST or SST. Some items there are, some are restricted items and whatnot. Plus, we must make sure that it is approved by them. So since it's digital, so we had to get their so-called like their MCMC kind of a organization there. I can't remember what they call them. So we just had to get them to endorse it, saying that okay, your process is okay, calculation is okay. So that is one regulation. In Philippines, we're talking to a partner there. We have to probably get our maybe, we're not sure, still investigating. Our app maybe need to be endorsed that it is actually functioning the way it's supposed to function. So those are the things that, like I said, some are regulatory where they control how you run business. Some are regulatory just to make sure that you follow a particular standard. So the following standard is much more easier, but the one that says that no, you can only do business this way and you cannot infringe into other areas and whatnot is a more challenging one. So how do you balance it is one that we need to do. This one, like us, I think for us is much more easier to balance, because as long as we meet the standard, we are okay. So yeah.
So I think your way forward was to just comply with the standards. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So nice of that, because I think compliance is a must, especially when you go international.
Yes.
And also in product development, in local product development as well. You have standards to follow. So sometimes parameters are set by the likes of Sirim.
Yes, exactly.
The
other challenge, the other challenge we have is the fabrication. So sending the cards from here will be too expensive. So we have to make sure that we find somebody there, and they follow our specification and those kind of stuff. So those are the other areas. So it's a hardware game, but once you get it right, then it just smooth sailing from there.
Mr. Manirajah, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
So since the start of the pandemic, we've seen a huge acceleration in technology adoption, right? And yours is something kind of new to the retail industry. So how fast do you see the rate of adoption to such technology in the sphere of retail? And how do you see the acceptance in such technologies in the industry?
See, the adoption, I think it's also the business process of the retailer currently. Some of them don't want to change their process abruptly. Some of them saying that, hey, I like it very much. I'm willing to, integrate with you to a certain level. Because we must understand that every organization have certain area where they outsource or they have external suppliers who are supplying certain services, right? So in that perspective, then sometimes it's a cost because this external party or external supplier is charging me so much to integrate with you and whatnot. So those are the challenges and probably time taken. So okay, how do we overcome that? So what we decided is, hey, you know what? Let's minimize the integration with them. We tell the retailer, look here, you don't have to do much integration. It's just a simple FTP, a CSV file. You give it to us. We will then manage and we will do that process. So we don't touch all your major components system-wise. System-wise, we don't touch your components. So that will take a little bit of time for them to absorb that. So we have retailer, like example in the Thailand retailer, is a large retailer, 300 stores they have. They were they really like it. They want it because they want to show new things that are happening in their stores, and they are not only in Thailand. They are in Italy, they are in Vietnam, then I think Indonesia. So that gives us a good exposure also. So, but of course there are retailers who are a little bit slow because they have their own plan. Hey, you know what? I want to do my own app. I want to get that thing moving. I'm busy with that. So a lot of those things that sometimes do slow down adoption. And there are certain retailers who don't have really much digitalization. They say, hey, you know what? I want to take this. And because it's a subscription basis, it's much easier. And I don't have to spend too much on capital. So that's how we have to be able to maneuver according to the market, according to the customer.
Ease the process of adoption
Yes.
and make less friction.
Yes, exactly. That's another thing. How do you make it less friction? So when you do your product, when as you're talking to your customers, target customers, you'll get a lot of feedback. Then you make sure you adjust it accordingly.
Very interesting, Raj. And the whole deployment of technology into the retail sector. In the interest of time, I have one final question, which is a normal question to any startup. Especially in your side, which is the, the the area where you are into, which is basically the retail sector. There is a lot of big shifts happening, and you're actually effective in your products that can serve the retail sector in a very productive manner.
Mm-hmm.
But the retail sector has posted a heavy loss, obviously on-site premise losses based on empty high streets, we call it. But the transition into online shopping has taken a different momentum. As a startup, learning from this experience, the challenges you mentioned, how you maneuver, how you pivot, your alterations based on the current scenario situation. What is the advice you would give to a new startup which is emerging, which is going into an unknown, I would say, market demand, unknown economic situation? What would your advice be for a new startup in those areas?
Okay. Well, what I tell myself is, first question I ask myself, what am I selling? Am I selling, like in our case, we are selling an experience, we are selling insights. So insights to the retailers, experience to the shopper. So I guess that is an important first question that we have to ask, and I think that is the answer that we must be upfront when we meet our potential customers. So, well, your question, Prof, is it's very challenging in a sense that if really you cannot, you think that your product is not going to serve a problem, or rather solve a problem, then probably you switch completely, pivot completely, or look for something else. So the most important here is that you need to know what you want to solve. If you know what you want to solve and you think it is a problem out there, then it's good to find a solution. Or can your product or your services or your product disrupt an existing a market or existing supplier, for that matter? So then okay, you can look at that. So it's I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's all depends on how the startup thinks that his product can expand and maneuver. Like I always tell my team is that, hey, yes, we are now using this technology on a trolley, but can we then move on to a basket, to the supermarket? Can we take this into, I don't know, the automotive industry, because we have certain components that we have built in-house. Like, for example, we have built a customized customer service app. So if somebody's using our card and they have a problem, they have to just press help function, and the customer service will have our app that we have allowed them to download. They'll receive a ticket, and you'll tell exactly where the card is and what is the problem, so that the customer service can go. So now this customer service app is applied to us, but maybe we can even take this and expand it to general use for other areas and whatnot. So I guess that is what a startup probably have to think. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to solve this, but my services cannot do anything else, only this. So when they start it, probably they have to look at the whole use case, but focus on the core. If it doesn't really jive well, then you start moving into other pockets that you think you can your solution can give solve that problem in those pocket areas. So probably sometimes it can be just very niche, or probably you can start as niche and then go to a broader market. So it all depends on that, what they're trying to do.
Right. I think you can't escape from a product that actually is serving a solution to a problem. I think that's the basis of any new development.
Yeah.
And if your product is right, then you venture into your startup and you take it further.
Yes.
I think that's what I'm getting from you.
Yes. Yes.
We're coming towards the end, Raj, of our fire chat. So we're going to open up some questions from the audience.
Okay.
And I know there's some questions.
Okay.
So they will, okay, here we go. Oh, Vishal, you're muted again. Are you muted?
Can you hear me now? Apologies. So yes, the first question from our audience is, you've mentioned that you went through many challenges in the business. So what other challenges did you face in terms of, aside from the financial aspect of the business, were there any other challenges that you faced?
Well, of course, many more, especially getting the right. First of all, you must be ready to be the one. The CEO, the tea lady, the office boy, the delivery guy. That's the first thing, because you'll be a one-man show. So you just have to do everything. You just cannot expect to be the boss and somebody else will do the job. Sometimes you just have to even sit down with the guys, your outsourced supplier, sit down and coax him. So those challenges of getting this whole thing into one piece has to be you only, and you have to push it. It cannot wait for something to happen. So the challenge is to find the right people, to find the right mix. Is your product the flow is correct? Sometimes it's not right. Sometimes the outsource company that you did suddenly says that, hey, you know what, I got a bigger project. Your project is so I only can allocate one resource. My all resource goes to another project. So now everything slows down. Sometimes they leave the organization, they go somewhere else. So then you have to balance. Do you need to hire somebody, and you have to hire somebody? Then you have a committed expenses. So a lot of challenges. So that's why I think working experience, a little bit of working experience will be very, very useful, whether it's part-time or full-time, a little bit, and that gives you a good networking and exposure of how to manage what happens in a company. So textbook is textbook, but real life is completely different. So that's why I tell friends, you must have an MBA, not only from a university, but you must have an MBA from University of All Knocks. You know what I mean? Just get knocked here, knocked there. So that is an MBA that no money can give. No money can buy.
The street university.
Exactly. That's very important. Very, very important.
I think in a way you're saying, don't wait and depend on other people, unless you go in and get your hands dirty and fully depend on yourself. You
Exactly.
can't really depend on people. Yes, you might have staff and team to support you, but it's really all on your shoulders.
Yes, exactly. Even you have staff, then how do you motivate them? How do you, make them come on with ideas? And I always like to tell them, everybody can give an idea. Every idea is valuable, but is the execution. How are you going to make that ideal viable is the challenge. So is somebody has to figure it out how you're going to make it viable. Otherwise, put it in the back burner. Let's move on. What's next? That's how I look at it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, Professor, should we take this last question?
Yes, let's take it.
All right. So one more question from Nicholas. Nicholas is actually one of our entrepreneur club personnel.
Hi, Nicholas.
He's curious to know how the future of retail business will go, and how should we adapt to it, considering the outbreak and the coronavirus, and all things have shifted online. How do you see this business moving forward?
Well, like I said, Amazon being the largest online retailer, they have gone into retail simply because retail will never die. As far as I see, will never die. It's an important aspect of the whole thing. Online definitely cannot do everything. Number one. Number two, e-commerce business model is also to collect data. What you buy, what you sell, advertise on the web and all those things. But retail gives you different data and different experience, and that's what a lot of this what do you call that e-com guys are going into retail. Instacart is one of the largest e-commerce company in the US. They deliver and whatnot. They acquired Caper. Caper is a smart card company. They acquired for $325 million US dollars. Now you see their reason of acquiring a smart card, which does end going into the retail market, because their business is one of their businesses to go and deliver from the retailer itself. So now if they have that technology of that card, their staff, who are the pickers they call, when they go and pick, plus they offer that services to a normal shopper, they're getting a lot of insights, a lot of other information, which you can't get only from e-com, right? So e-com will have probably 20% of the market, but 80% of the market still retail, people going there. So that's why it still remain a big. But having said that, doesn't mean that in 30 years, 40 years, it might come 50-50, but retail will still survive and will be there, because all of us want to go out and and go out and see things, touch it, feel it, as much as we do buy from online. So that would be my answer to this question. And I think it's a matter of also marrying these two technology and see how we can deliver a one complete platform ecosystem.
I think we have more questions. Raj, you're very popular.
Thank
You're
you.
today. I think this you might find this very interesting question. Speaking that retail is shifting towards online methods, right? And I think Asia Pacific is starting to really adapt to it. So do you think it is possible within the next 5 years for cryptocurrency to be a payment method in terms of retail and in terms of all sorts of payments, in the Asia Pacific particularly, because it's already adopted in the US and Europe?
Sure. Well, my answer would be is that as long as cryptocurrency is a fiat currency, currently there's no value put to it. It's still to me it's like an investment instrument. It fluctuates and whatnot. So that's sometimes a story among my friends. We sit down and argue. Some who have invested in it, some thinking of investing, and some who invest things that it's going to be the main currency. So as long as it hasn't come to that main currency stage, I think it's going to be a challenge, because today one Bitcoin is X amount. 1 hour later it could be X minus 1 or X plus 1. So how do you balance that? Now, next 5 years, if the central bank of the country decides to go towards that cryptocurrency, which a lot of them are looking at it, are trying it out, then of course it will, but definitely it will not be, I think, a Bitcoin-like, but it'll be basically a government-issued cryptocurrency. So I think is very much possible, but depending on how, is it a fiat or is it just another speculative coin?
So perhaps the digital currency is similar to what the European Union is doing. So it could be towards that kind of
Yes.
direction.
Yes, like how China is looking at it, and I think Europe, they're also looking at it, and even Malaysia, Bank Negara is also looking at it. I think they've approved Luna. I think Luna as one crypto exchange that you can deal with.
I think we are slowly, moving towards a completely digitalized world where we never have to go out carrying our wallet or, IDs.
Exactly.
Everything is in our smartphone.
Well, when I started my e-wallet, that was my idea, and everybody goes, just I don't have to bring my wallet, and I just do it. That was my idea, but of course, I didn't have deep pocket, so
Maybe you were just a few years ahead of time.
Exactly.
We have one more question from Jeremy Chong. So Jeremy is asking, do you think companies should produce a kind of a top of the line quality of product to the market? For example, light bulbs. If a light bulb, light bulbs now have about 2,000 hours, right? Do you think it's better for the producer to produce a light bulb that can last maybe 50 years? Or do they take care of the lifespan? Do they reduce the lifespan in terms of allowing the customer to repurchase? Because, if you're producing a product that lasts for a lifetime, then where is your retail come in at that point, right?
Well, if you have a company who can have a bulb can last for 50 years, Philips might buy over and close it down, and that's what I think they have done. So I don't think so. A smart manufacturer will do that. Of course, they will always keep it to a span so that always repurchase happens. So I think it's not even if it's possible, I don't think somebody wants to do that. So that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you, Raj. I think we've come to the end of our slot. I want to thank you for your time. I think you've been very interactive with us. I think you shared more than what we could ask for. We just went on and on. We just shot one rocket and you gave us, 10 rockets back. And I think I personally, and I know Vishal for sure, we have appreciated some of the sharing points that you've given us in terms of what you have done, which are great things with Retailetics, and also how you are now beginning to venture outside Malaysia, and how you have strived over some of the obstacles and some of the challenges, especially during COVID-19, which has never ended yet, but I hope it never stays for that long. Yeah. And we will continue our collaborative efforts with APU and your company. And I thank you for your time. And I think many more things, good things to happen for you and your company. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for being on our Enterprise Wednesday show. It was certainly my pleasure, together with Vishal, my partner in crime, to host you. Yeah. Before that, I've been just asked to remind the audience to wait for the eCert page so that you can scan it. Yeah. And my colleague is going to scan the page. So Raj, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in the campus in a very near future. We can discuss other stuff further.
Definitely. Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you, Mr. Maniraj. It was such a pleasure having you today.
Good night.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Everyone stay
Right.
safe.
Thank you, the audience
And
also.
this is the end of Enterprise Wednesday for 2021. It has been a blast. We had 12 sessions. This is the 12th session, and it has been something that started in a slow manner, picked up pace picked up as we went along. Had a lot of interesting characters, startups who have come and shared positive views of all their startups. And now we've come to the end of the year. I hope you have learned a thing or two or more from all these fire chat sessions. So everyone, thank you, Mr. Manirajah, and everyone who's watching. Stay safe and take care. Yep. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.